Anybody who tells me that they go out there to have fun playing football, they're a liar. Because this game isn't fun. This game is a war.
Lyle Alzado was one of the NFL's most terrifying players.
He was a crazy man. You could look in his eyes and see that there was something wrong.
He was so crazy, the NFL had to change the rules. But the same thing that helped him dominate is what eventually ruined him. Rule 12, Section 2, Article 17 of the NFL Rulebook, also known as the Lyle Alzado Rule, which prohibits a player from using a helmet as a weapon. Believe it or not, the NFL didn't think they needed to specify, hey guys, don't use your helmet as a weapon. But when Alzado ripped off Chris Ward's helmet and threw it at him, the NFL had to get a bit clearer. However, this wasn't random madness. He played like this because, for him, violence was survival. Growing up poor, kids would tease him, so Alzado, whose father began training him in boxing at age 6, said he started beating on people so they'd be afraid to laugh at him. But at home, his father was an abusive alcoholic.
He was always told he wasn't good enough, he was never going to amount to anything. And when you're a young person growing up and someone is telling you that constantly, you believe it. And he had a lot of anger, he had an emptiness inside himself.
His fights eventually escalated, and he often found himself in jail. Before his life could spiral out of control, his high school football coach, Jack Martellotta, stepped in. He helped Alzado channel that rage onto the football field, and that saved his life. Without football, I'd probably be dealing dope on a street corner or sitting in jail somewhere. But Alzado's bad grades and run-ins with the law put schools off. New Mexico State was his only offer to play college football, but 2 weeks before he was supposed to enroll, they withdrew his offer without explanation. He had to join Kilgore College, but they cut him in his second year. With that, Alzado was ready to quit football. Before he could, his coach got him one more opportunity, a scholarship at Yankton College. It was here, in 1969, that Alzado discovered his first true love, steroids.
My starting all those years ago was because I wasn't born a football player.
Spending up to 6 hours a day in the weight room, he grew from 195 pounds as a freshman to 300 as a senior. The size led to on-field success, as he helped the team reach the 1970 Copper Bowl. Now here's how the draft story is usually told about Alzado. Almost 1,000 miles away, from Yankton College in Montana, Broncos coach Stan Jones had problems with his car. While he was waiting for the mechanic to fix it, he wandered over to Montana Tech. The coach showed Jones tape of their star running back, Don Heater, during the 1970 Copper Bowl. But it wouldn't be Heater that would catch Jones's attention. It was Lyle Alzado. But when it's told like this, it suggests that Alzado was a total unknown before Jones discovered him. Obviously he was to Jones, but Alzado was selected to the 1971 College All-Star team, which included future Hall of Famers like Jack Youngblood and Jack Ham. Other teams were considering drafting him. However, it would be the Broncos who took the chance in the 4th round in 1971. During the 1971 preseason, Broncos starter Pete Duranko suffered a season-ending knee injury. That thrusted Alzado into the starting lineup. He was not going to let the opportunity go to waste.
I'm Lyle Alzado of the Denver Broncos, and I'm mean, and I'm tough, and I'm the best defensive end pro football's ever seen. Me, Lyle Alzado.
He finished his rookie year with 8 sacks and 55 total tackles. I outran, outhit, and out-anythinked everybody. All along the way I was taking steroids, and I saw that they made me play better and better. Believing the steroids were making him successful, he doubled down. At one point in his career, he was spending $30,000 a year on the stuff.
Looking back on it now and knowing all that I know now, I don't think Lyle could really control himself.
From 1971 to 1975, his 47.5 sacks ranked 8th most in the NFL.
Immensely respected was number 77, Lyle Alzado, who was Denver's defensive MVP in 75 and the only lineman to complete 14 games.
But just as Alzado was emerging as a star, he suffered a season-ending knee injury in 1976. Unfortunately for him, this would be the Broncos' best season in franchise history. For the first 11 years of the Broncos' existence, they were terrible. They didn't have one winning season. That changed once John Ralston was hired, and the Broncos achieved their first winning season in 1973. The improvement was in large part thanks to Ralston's keen eye for talent. He drafted players like Randy Gradishar, Otis Armstrong, Lewis Wright, and Tom Jackson. But while the team would win more games, they were still far away from playoff contention. Eventually the players grew frustrated, many believing Ralston lacked the strategy to get the team to the next level. In what was called the Dirty Dozen, 12 Bronco players got together and drafted a statement. Half the team signed this document, supporting a change. And so, Ralston was forced out of Denver. His replacement, Red Miller, gave the Broncos a jolt of life. Alzado also returned in 1977, led the team with 8 sacks, and almost won Defensive Player of the Year. He had become one of the most recognizable faces on the Broncos' now vaunted Orange Crush defense. Just 2 years prior, the defense ranked 18th. Now in 1977, they were 3rd. Behind a dominant defense, the Broncos won 12 games and marched their way to the Super Bowl! Alzado delivered against the Cowboys with 2 sacks. The Broncos' offense also delivered. The ball to the Cowboys. They had 8 turnovers, the second most in Super Bowl history. With that, a loss was inevitable. Devastated but determined, Alzado continued working, again leading the team in sacks with 9 in 1978. The city loved him. When high schoolers were asked which Bronco they'd like to meet, 700 said Alzado. Floyd Little got the second most votes, with 12. This defense allowed the fewest points in the NFL from 1976 to 1979, and Alzado's 64.5 sacks with the team was first by a wide margin. But it wouldn't be the stats that would come to define Alzado.
Lyle was the poster child for roid rages. If somebody cut him off in a car, he would follow the person, grab him out of the car, and beat them senseless.
That made him unpredictable. So after flirting with a pro boxing career and going 8 rounds with Muhammad Ali, he demanded a new contract. Instead, the Broncos traded him to the Browns. Alzado felt betrayed, but he knew winning was the best payback.
That just killed his ego. So, in Cleveland he wanted to prove to be the best, he wanted to be all pro when he was in Cleveland. So I think that his steroid abuse escalated then.
In 1980, he received another All-Pro selection and helped turn around a struggling Browns defense. But it fell apart in 1981, from 11-5 to 5-11. The MVP was no longer looking like an MVP. The Cardiac Kids had fallen into cardiac arrest. They won 7 of 10 games, decided within 6 points in 1980, but just 3 of 8 in 1981. In an attempt to give the team life and give their young guys more playing time, the Browns traded Alzado. He'd been dealing with injuries, and the team felt he was on the downside of his career. When the Broncos traded him, he felt betrayed. When the Browns traded him, he felt embarrassed. He was sent to the Raiders for an 8th round pick. That was it. Just a few years prior, the Browns traded 3 picks for him, but he would find his home with the Raiders.
I could have him locked up tomorrow. He's borderline psycho. He's got some serious problems.
3 Mile Lyle was let loose. Not only was this the year of the Alzado rule, he also had 7 sacks, tied best on the team, and won Comeback Player of the Year. 1983 may not have been Alzado's finest statistically, but stats can never tell the full story.
His desire to win a championship in many ways impacted that football team, particularly in the defensive front.
After going 12-4, the Raiders hosted the Steelers in the divisional round.
It's halftime and we're losing 20-0. And our head coach came into the locker room and he said, "Alzado, you stink." And he spit at Lyle in the face. We won 28-20. All he did was piss off Lyle Alzado and the game was over. That was it.
Knowing this, Howie Long had an idea.
Prior to the playoff game against Pittsburgh, Alzado had convinced himself, or perhaps he'd had help from a teammate, that Steelers tackle Tunch Ilkin said, "Alzado presents no problem."
In reality, it occurs to me that maybe Tunch Ilkin never said it at all, but Howie manufactured it. To quote Bill Pickel, "I have no knowledge of the aforementioned incident."
He finished the game with 2.5 sacks. After a convincing win against the Seahawks, Alzado was back in another Super Bowl.
Joe Theismann and I were in the Superstars together. He's a great athlete, and if I get a chance in the game to tear his head off, I'll do that.
No heads were torn off. Alzado didn't even get a sack. But
He wanted more than anything in his life, besides all the successes that he had, was to have a happy life.
for a moment, Alzado was truly happy. This psycho had another side to him. The guy had a split personality. On the field, he had this tough image that he projected. Off the field, he was a gentle giant, so caring, so warm, so giving. He was particularly great with children. In 1977, he won the NFLPA Alan Page Community Award and spent most weeks visiting children's hospitals and various charity functions. It's such a strange contrast.
Underneath this tough exterior, I'm a very, very tender guy.
That tender guy was looking for something.
It fulfilled something in him, that emptiness that was inside him.
Unfortunately, neither charity nor a Super Bowl could fill that hole. He never quit trying though. Alzado retired in 1985. Then, just 5 years later, at the age of 41, he decided to make a comeback. The problem was, the NFL began testing for steroids in 1987, so Alzado had to get creative. In his words, a comeback was possible thanks to revolutionary training. What that actually meant was taking a boatload of steroids, and he found a way to avoid detection during drug tests. But thanks to a knee injury, he only got to play in one preseason game before being cut. Not long after, he was diagnosed with brain cancer. While there's no medical evidence linking cancer and steroids, Alzado believed there was no other explanation. He spent the final months of his life raising awareness about the dangers of excessive steroid use. But after coming clean, his reputation took a bit of a hit. To me, that's absurd. One survey found 20% of NFL players admitted to using steroids before the NFL began testing. In reality, it's probably much higher. So why should Alzado's legacy be tarnished because he was honest?
He was always terribly frightened about turning into my father. His steroid use was my dad's alcohol use.
While Alzado had his demons, he was a heck of a football player and ultimately had a good heart. He should be remembered as such.